Hi everyone, I'm Kathy and welcome to season 2 of the Great Place to Work podcast series. Today I have Shan and Isaac and we will be discussing millennials and Gen Zs, their values and goals. So before we start, shall we make a guess who is Gen Z or who is a millennial?
Obviously, I'm the Gen Z, right? I think it's quite obvious.
Yes, Shan, I totally can envision you as a Gen Z. All right, but here we have Isaac as our Gen Z representative today and Shan from our millennials. All right, so let's kickstart the discussion with our work environment that we first started work in, right? Shan, do you remember the first day of work and the environment that you were, that you embraced when you first started work?
Yeah, I started at Great Place to Work 2 years ago. And at that point in time, I was the youngest one in the office.
Yes, you
So
were.
now having a 19-year-old with us, when I'm like almost 10 years older than you, I definitely feel a difference.
Wow.
But that being said, it was a really welcoming environment. I still remember you were the first one to greet me.
Yes. I think we became instant friends
Yeah.
because we're in the same generation.
Yeah, that's right.
Or
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and how about you, Isaac? How was your first experience coming into the workforce?
I felt that as far as like work-life balance goes, at first when I first joined, because I did like a waitering job, like it was a bit tough because I felt like I didn't really have time to do my own stuff on the side while I was working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was your shift schedule like?
My shift schedule was like quite busy. I think because like I was a bit dumb, so I just took like the full shift for like
Yes.
4 days straight. So
You just wanted to go straight into the role.
yeah, I just wanted to get money straight away. Yeah.
That's great. And have you guys heard about the new flexible work arrangements that was just announced?
Yes,
Yes.
very excited about that. I mean, we at Great Place to Work already practice flexible work arrangements, but I think it's great that more employers are going to be giving this kind of opportunity and benefit to their employees as well.
Yes. And what would you say would be the one flexible work arrangement that you'll be most looking forward to?
I personally like the flexi hours. I mean, at Great Place to Work, we already practice that with flexible start times. So we have a range of times where we can start our work. And I think that's really thoughtful. It just makes you feel valued and seen as an employee that, hey, I can work my work schedule around my lifestyle.
Yes.
So that's one I really like.
Okay, Isaac, let's deep dive into your life for a bit. Could you share with us, your aspirations and your dreams, and what would you be looking at, when you are going to be applying for jobs?
As far as like where I am at right now, I'm currently pursuing a diploma in business analytics. So, and like when it comes to like what I'll be looking for when I want to join the workforce would be something like flexible hours, or whether like I'll be able to work from home. Want the pay, of course. Like money is gonna be a very big incentive when it comes to working because like everything's so expensive now. Yeah. So yeah.
Would culture be on top of your mind?
I would say work culture is pretty important when it comes to where you're working because I have, even though I've only been in the workforce for quite a short time in like part-time jobs, I feel like work culture is very, very important in, not just like getting you into the job, but also like keeping you there, I feel like that's a very big part of it. I would say as far as like bosses go or like my superiors would go, I would want someone to like kind of show me the way. I would like to feel like I'm not just part of the company, but I'm also like really having an impact on like the company itself. Like I don't want to feel like I'm just doing work for the sake of doing work.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm working towards something that everyone else is working towards.
Right.
Oh, that's amazing. So I guess for yourself, you're looking to see how you yourself as an individual, what you do in a company leads towards the bigger picture and ultimately the success of the company.
Yeah.
Right. And how you might be one person in an organization, but you are also so instrumental in what an organization does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I
That's
would like to
really
be able
great.
to see my change. Yeah.
Change maker.
Change maker. Yeah.
Yes.
Love
Yeah,
that.
Love that. How about you, Shan?
Interestingly, I mean, although we are from different generations, the answers are quite similar. So from a very practical standpoint, I definitely need a job that pays me well enough so that I can put food on the table and support my family. But more than that, I think definitely one thing that is really important to me is purpose. I want to know, similar to you, Isaac, that I'm doing something good. Not just for myself, but for the company, for the world, for the communities that we're in. And also, I want it to be a fun place to work. I mean, we spend so much time at the workplace. If you don't like your colleagues, that's going to be quite miserable.
Yes.
So I'm glad I have good colleagues like you.
I'm glad we bonded.
And definitely, yeah, the colleagues, the relationships and bonds that you have, that's something that is so important to me.
That it is. And it's so true. We spend so much of our lives at work. We might as well make the best of it, right? And be happy people.
Yeah.
Actually, another point that I really want to bring up, or that I felt was very important to me, would be job security, especially in the times that we are right now, where every single time I have a conversation with my friends, or even with older people who are already in the workforce, it's a big thing is oh, will your job be sort of replaced by AI? Will you be replaced? Will it be easy? Is it easy to replace? And I feel this is something that applies to everyone of regardless of your age, but especially now when AI has become so sort of advanced, right? That threat of your job kind of being taken away by computers becoming more and more apparent. So being able to go home after your job and be okay, you know what, tomorrow I'm still gonna be employed, next month I'm still gonna be employed. It's something that's gonna be very important for people my age, and just in general. Yeah.
I'm surprised that's a concern for you, because I can see how millennials and above might feel that, because we're not as digitally savvy. But for a young 19-year-old like yourself, I'm sure you're quite, in tune with Gen AI and its uses and applications.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like my mother's generation, when Microsoft just came into the workforce and, everyone started using Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. And then, our generation, this is your day to day, right? We do it every single day. And now we have to learn new AI tools. So I feel like it might be a generational shift, but also technological advances as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shan. Thanks, Isaac, for joining me today and this session.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Doris and Eve to share more about
millennials
and Gen Zs
on their goals and values.
Before we continue, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, DHL Express Singapore. DHL, the world's leading logistics company, is leading the charge towards a more sustainable future, with a goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2050. In Singapore, DHL's Go Green Plus solutions helps businesses to reduce their carbon emissions through the use of sustainable aviation fuel. Derived from renewable sources such as used cooking oil, DHL is also expanding their electric vehicle fleet rapidly to ensure greener last-mile deliveries. Join DHL on their sustainability journey. Learn more at dhl.com/discover/en-sg. Welcome to the podcast series by Great Place to Work, ASEAN and ANZ. Join us as we explore current workplace trends and issues through conversations with industry leaders. Listen to their views and experiences that are shaping our workplaces today.
Hi everyone. I'm really happy to have with me today Doris. Doris is the CEO for HCLI, and Doris and I go way back. I'm really happy that she's here with us this afternoon to talk about this evergreen topic about the Gen Zs, the Gen MZs actually. I'll let Doris introduce herself a little bit.
Sure. Really thrilled to be here with you, Evelyn. Right now, I'm the CEO of the Human Capital Leadership Institute. I've spent my career pretty much in different educational institutions, focusing on just development of people, and people matters, and it's been really a pleasure to do. So I've worked everywhere from kind of JCs, Neon Poly here in Singapore, to help start up Yale and US College, and to help run the MBA program of both NCED and SMU.
Yeah.
And that's where we got
That's
to
where
meet.
we met.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly,
Yeah.
at SMU. So that's one of the best pleasures of my job is I get to meet amazing people and keep in touch with them and watch them do amazing things.
You know, I always attribute, Doris, to my willingness to step out and to be entrepreneur to you.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, I had grew up looking at my business owners' parents and how hard they work and how difficult it is. I always told myself, I won't do that. But it's because I went to the SMU MBA program and you had a strong focus on entrepreneurship.
Definitely.
You demystified and help us unpack what that meant, so that when the opportunity came for me to step out, the MBA experience really played a part. So I always owe you that, Doris.
That is like music to my ears, and I'm so proud and happy. I'm happy for you and happy for everybody that you affect with Great Place to Work. And it's just been a huge journey, I think, for you.
It is, yeah. So we are here today to talk about the Gen MZs. In today, as of last year, there are 5 generations in the workplace: the traditionalists, the baby boomers, we've got the Gen X, the millennials, or we call them the Gen Zs. In fact, if we were to club the Gen Zs and the millennials, we call them the Gen MZs. In fact, I saw in another report that by next year, there will be 6 generations. We're looking at the Gen As, right? The Generation Alphas, who are born between 2010 and 2024.
Yes.
And they'll be 16 years old next year.
Right.
So they'll come and join the workforce as probably interns, which means there are 6 generations. That's mind-blowing to say the least, right? And the Gen MZs have often been accused, we see reports, of being lazy, of being job hoppers, or being strawberry generations. But we know that this is not true. In fact, the trends among the younger colleagues are that the differences might be attributed to cultural differences. Compared to older generations, we're just talking about how those of the people right here helping us in this recording, every one of them, they are Gen MZ. And they value traits like they're adaptable, they're flexible, but they value purpose in work. And Doris, in your work at HCLI, maybe you could expand a little bit more. I really love what you do in that there's a strong focus on developing leaders in Asia.
Yes.
And in Asia, we have such strong views around the cultural norms, how things should be like.
Yes.
How do you, the work you do in HCLI, how do you help to enable companies to thrive?
Yeah. So, gosh, it's a compounded question. I mean, I think the first thing that I should probably share is that we work with all levels of leaders in business. And so we have the pleasure of working with a lot of Gen MZs, as well as baby boomers and Gen Xs as well. No A's yet, but maybe in the future. And, you know, it is a special time, because I do think that there's a real big paradigm shift that we're going through in the workforce. And it just takes adjustment for all generations to really succeed and thrive in this paradigm shift. And I think that one of the things that we can do at HCLI is just help bridge those gaps, help people understand the differences between these generations, and also really focus on what we call human-centered leadership skills, which, to be honest, go beyond any generational shift.
That's right. Yeah.
So, you know, I could be a little bit more specific about that if you want. And, you know, I can talk a little bit more about what those skills are.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, perhaps before we go into that, it might be speaking the obvious, but if you could just unpack a little bit around, based on your interactions, right, with leaders across the different generations, what are some attributes that you see, and where are some friction that may arise because of the different generational perspective of things?
Right. So, I mean, you named some earlier with regards to Gen MZs really wanting to be purpose-driven, not necessarily profit-driven, and really focusing on the desire to learn. I think that that's primary. And sometimes that means moving more frequently than previous generations, because the thought that their purpose or their learning capacity is not being met versus earlier generations. And so, you know, I think that those differences are true.
If I could just, so what I'm hearing is that the younger generation is very much one where it's very growth driven.
Yes.
They want to grow.
Yes.
Do we not see that in perhaps the earlier generations?
I think that growth mindset is something that earlier generations have had to learn.
Okay.
I think earlier generations also had less expectations of work. The lines between work and life were not as blurred often.
That's true.
And so, I think that what makes those lines blurred is very much technology.
That's right.
So, we're kind of always plugged in. Even in the generation before ours, there was, you go home from work and that was it.
Yeah.
There was no computer to open after dinner. There was no more email to check, the first thing before you brush your teeth, you're checking your email. And so many people do that. And that's like a norm. There was a greater divide between work and life. And as a result of that change, I think that, people are expecting a little bit more from their work than before.
So I feel that the younger generation are set up.
Yes.
They have no choice but to be growth driven,
Yes.
because the pace of change, what's happening around them, force them to learn fast.
Definitely.
Because they have to learn fast.
They have to.
They have no choice.
It's a lot of pressure, actually.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Compared to perhaps the rate of change or the expectation placed on older generation is not as intense.
Right.
And therefore that growth mindedness is what might cause the younger people to therefore I need
Shift
to grow,
more.
I need to learn,
Yeah.
I need to be
Yeah.
I need to get better.
Yes. And, it would be interesting to ask. I'm not familiar with any particular survey on this, but I think that they're okay with that. That's like, it's a norm for them.
We feel it because
Yeah, exactly. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, yeah, that must be so hard for them. But then I'm like, wait, maybe not, because maybe this is what they're used to.
I need to tell you, I've got teenagers, you've got
Yes.
teenagers, and sometimes they speak to me, I'm like, girls, can you just slow down? I can't get what you're trying to say. And I keep asking myself, why do they speak so fast? And I have to ask them to repeat. Until one day I realized, because when they watch lecture,
Yes.
the YouTube speed,
Yeah.
for them the playback speed is at times 1.5 or
1.5.
times 2. So they are
Exactly.
used to hearing and speaking
Exactly.
fast. Whereas
Yes.
I'm like, oh, is that such a thing?
I know.
So I think
I
that's
know.
probably what, it's just so normal
We
for
didn't
them.
have 1.5. That was not even a possibility. So, right.
We attend live lectures.
Exactly.
And the lecture speaks slowly.
And if you missed it, you missed it. Now it's like, if you missed the particular topic, you can Google exactly which minute and second you can go
Go
to,
straight for that,
and go
yeah.
straight for it. So
And
it's a very
therefore,
different
perhaps
world.
the need for things to be instantaneous and perhaps the impatience step in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the instantaneous is something that I definitely wanted to talk about, which is, I think, Gen X had microwave. I used to call it microwave generation. We were like, that was a beauty. Like, you can expect things instantaneously in terms of food, because we had this new invention called the microwave, and it was just magical how you could prepare a dinner or whatever in no time at all. And the next generation has microwave instantaneous information. It has microwave instantaneous dates. It has microwave
That's true.
instantaneous, learning.
That's true.
It's microwave instantaneous everything. And that, it makes them incredibly effective
Yeah.
and fast. But it makes it also, I think, they have to intentionally put pauses in their path in order to kind of be sustainable. Yeah, where we had just had it naturally,
Yeah.
more naturally.
As I thought about it, our generation, we did our research by going to the reference libraries
Yes.
to read the books, right? The next generation, they have got Google to help them
It's
to pick out the
amazing.
points.
Yeah.
Today is Gen AI. It's all assimilated and synthesized.
It's incredible. So to prepare for our conversation today, I started to do some Gen AI,
Yeah.
and it was instantaneous.
Right.
And I just kept thinking to myself, okay, so what are you going to say that's beyond this? Because everybody who's listening can do that themselves and find it, in 5 seconds flat.
Exactly.
And for me, that made me realize that, well, it's actually probably stories and experiences that are probably going to be more relevant
yeah.
than any stat or anything that you
Yeah.
can, in literally less than a minute, get an instant feed on.
And I think that's why we wanted to invite you, Doris, because like you say, right, we know the intellectual differences between the
We
different
do.
generations. I think what we want to know is that how can leaders be effective in bridging the gaps
Right,
and in bringing everyone forward?
right.
Because like it or not, we can complain to that. it is going to happen.
Exactly.
And we need to just get effective.
Exactly.
And that's where I would love to hear about the human-centered leadership principles.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I think for Gen X, they have to realize that, MZ is going to be the majority of the workforce. And this is not a matter of, maybe I just find the ones who can see it through my lens. This is a must do.
It's a new normal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the new normal. And I think that kind of sharing is really important. And so it's like all the toolboxes that you had for leadership development, which were super successful in the past, but that's great. Maybe you might need them from time to time, but you have to create a whole new set in your toolbox for this next, majority segment of the workforce. And once you have that segment, like that in your head, that mindset shift, I think that it makes you a little bit more open to the need to change. And I think it's not easy, but it's definitely necessary. And in terms of kind of the things that I'm thinking about, for human-centered leadership, there are certain things that definitely go across generations. Though we hear a lot about empathy, but this is, I think, extremely important for Gen MZ. And we don't practice it enough. And really kind of the technique to get to the empathy of putting yourself in the shoes of others and understanding from their perspective is communicating. And in this kind of dispersed workforce, that communication is challenged.
Even harder. So
it's even
I need to be
harder.
empathetic, which is not natural for many people.
Yes,
And now to do it in a dispersed workforce
that's right.
across 5 generations.
Exactly.
We
With
are
people who are experiencing things very different than you have experienced them.
That's right. And
Yeah.
if across geographies,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
really, it can be impossible.
It can be. And so anything that a company and a leader can do to enhance that level of communication between staff is going to go a long way in gelling that workforce. And
Yeah, I want to just get more tips, practical tips. So Doris, how could leaders today demonstrate empathy? So communication is one, but it needs to come from the heart for it to be genuine
Definitely.
and sincere, right? But as a leader, a lot is going on for the leader himself.
yes,
And we can't give empathy from a place of empty tank
yes,
because
Yes.
it's really hard.
it is really hard. But I think that's where when people say, be vulnerable makes sense. I've tried this myself, sharing a little bit more. I'm usually a pretty private person. And at work, I've shared a little bit more. Most of it has to deal with my sons. But, I'll share a little bit more with regards to any challenges that I have, or, I was up really late because I was worried about whatever. And it's incredible, the feedback that I get as a result of sharing some of that. It's not work related, but it helps the work relationship. And I think that it goes both ways, So there's stories, and this is where kind of being in a dispersed workplace is hard, because it's at the lunches that you can actually, share some of these stories. And, it's when you see somebody and how tired they are, that you can actually really be empathetic and, understand what they're going through. So I think that's kind of like that extra layer challenge of just the reality that we're in of understanding and empathizing with each other. So flex work is tough. I think it's definitely necessary, but I think you can have both, which is, having some flex work arrangements, being committed to flex work, but also implementing some measures to make sure that there's interaction amongst individuals. And it's not just from a, get to know each other perspective. It's also from an apprenticeship objective, both ways. So I think in Gen X, there was a lot of FaceTime and like, see how I do this work, and then I'll show you how I do this. Now you try, etc. But when I say apprenticeship, I really mean from both ways. So watching Gen MZ work through a problem statement and using tech is incredible. And the speed at which that's done.
That's right.
I learn a lot from that. Creating decks used to be like such a big burden.
Oh my gosh.
We used to have
We
staff,
spend-
departments who used to do
Consulting
that.
companies, you would have a
Consulting,
firm, a
exactly.
team just to do PowerPoint deck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now that's just completely not necessary. It's
Yeah.
seamless.
Yeah.
But they're tools actually, and that you have to learn how to use, which we don't know, but the apprenticeship is kind of that way, right? From the Gen MZ to ourselves. Similarly, there's some kind of work experience things that we might be able to add and to give them. And it's the way we conduct interviews, or it's the way we work with different individuals. And so it really does go both ways. And again, the whole tool of communication comes after each meeting, after each day or whatever, is to really kind of solidify that learning. Gosh, when you did that, I was so impressed. I'll give you very specific because it's very helpful to do that. We have SharePoint in our office. I know sounds really stupid. So
We all have been there.
oh my God. So, you're looking for files,
Yeah.
right? You can look at just little whatever the search area, and it'll look throughout your whole SharePoint
Yeah.
and pull out everything. So you just have to find that right word.
That's the
Right?
keyword, yeah.
And instantaneously, I'm going to find all the contracts that were written,
Yes.
all the reviews. We have action, after action reports. I'm going to find out all of that just by putting in one keyword, and I'm going to find it instantaneously.
and it just pulls across.
Yes.
Amazing, right? We have spent hours looking for those files
Hours.
in our days.
Hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The Gen Zs are going to laugh at us.
I
but-
know. It's really stupid. But it was just really, it was to once I just watched somebody do that. And there's just so many things like that,
Yeah, So what I'm hearing from you, Doris, is that for the Gen X leaders, is for us, number one, to accept the inevitable,
Inevitable.
that the workforce is going to be majority Gen MZs.
Yes.
It is not about finding a better Gen MZ.
Yes.
It is about learning to adapt to them.
That's
And
right.
to adapt is about empathy.
Yes.
It's about communication.
Yes.
And how do we fill our own cup? Filling
Yes.
our own cup is where we open our lives
That's
in
true.
in a sensible way, in a reasonable way,
Definitely.
so that our cups get filled up not just by being tough, because sometimes we grow with the mentality that bosses need to be tough, need to be strong.
Right.
We cannot show our weakness, we cannot show our ignorance.
Right.
That's our mental model. But we are
Yes.
saying that it's okay to show that I don't know.
Yes.
It's okay to show that I'm going through a hard time.
That's right.
And that's how we kind of fill our cup and to be able to connect and build bridges. And that's your advice for a Gen X leader.
Definitely. And the other thing that I would say is that it's going to be different skills, right?
That's right, different
so
skill
you
set.
definitely need to change the skills. Some of the skills that we used to do, there is somebody that I could quote here, Liz Wiseman, who does work with multipliers and diminishers. And it's like kind of what activities are multiplying effects in the workforce versus diminishing effects. Some of the things that we used to do in Gen X are now diminishing activities.
Pray, tell, and enlighten.
So, and they're called accidental diminishers.
Okay.
So, for example, always going in and, if you see something bad happening and interjecting and fixing it, that's an accidental diminishing
Okay.
activity.
Okay.
Whereas before, that could be like a great leader, always there to get their hands dirty and willing to make it work.
Make it work, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would have thought that if I do that, I'm just there to help, to support. I'm going there to help make sure you do not
Right.
waste your efforts.
Accidental
that's my Gen X
diminisher.
mentality.
Yeah,
so
because
that's no good.
it starts feeding into the culture of, well, you know what? If it's not right, Evelyn's going to fix it. I'm not going to do it.
Okay. All right.
Or, you know what? I'm going to make a mistake and it's just somebody else is just going to fix it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's such innate in us.
It's incredibly difficult.
That's right.
So-
Because even as to tell me that I'm thinking back of my behaviors in the team, I'm thinking of my experiences with my colleagues and thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Absolutely. So we had to relearn.
All right.
And it's almost like learning a new sport.
Okay.
And it's exciting too because we
Yeah.
get to learn something new. Oftentimes, one of the best advice that we have for Gen X leaders is you might have like this gut reaction. Just pause.
All right.
Just pause.
Okay.
And then ask yourself, is this because I'm seeing it through my Gen X lens?
Mm.
Or is this wrong?
Okay.
And sometimes it's just wrong. And
Yeah.
so I give you that. But I think that oftentimes it's just because we're seeing the world, we're seeing work in a different way.
That's incredibly powerful. We are so quick to correct
Oh, completely.
and so quick to be to perfect things.
Because that is how we succeeded.
You're right. That's how we succeeded,
Yeah.
by getting it right.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is so good. And what are the multipliers then?
So multipliers are, I think the things that we would normally think of as multipliers. So kind of the idea is empowering. Really, that's the overall umbrella of the multiplier is like, how do you empower your staff?
Yeah.
How do you trust them?
Yeah.
How do you create an area where it's okay to make mistakes but learn from them? So those are all kind of multiplier types of activities.
Yeah.
Institutions meaning companies, can create lots of policies. They can create wonderful pantries. They can create lots of outings, all these different policies for, a better place to work. But if it's, if Gen MZ is not going to be part of that process, it's not gonna go anywhere. And it's quite sad for me, actually. Now, having said that, there's maybe something else that I can share, which is a Bain study. It was a Mercer study, which I love. Actually, both. I'm going to talk about both. So a Mercer study talks about a generation of workplace with lots of different types of employees. So there are employees like we know who are going to work for a company for 5-10 years, progress, learn different things, etc. And they want that because that's comfortable for them. But there will be a subsegment and a larger subsegment, which is going to want to be gig workers. They like to rotate.
That's right. They need variety.
They like variety, and that's their happy place, and they're not looking for kind of any engagement, etc. And that's fine. And that companies can also accommodate that as well at the same time as accommodating the other segment who wants that kind of progression and stability and stability.
Yeah.
And if we start thinking about that from an HR perspective of how we build our companies, then it's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
And that's when I get to the Bain study, which is every single industry has figured out that we need to be kind of customer specific, that we have the ability to be customer specific
Customer
now.
segmentation.
Yeah,
that we do,
exactly.
right?
You like the blue color,
Yes.
so I'm going to give you blue, and
Yeah.
you can have your mug in blue,
Yeah.
or you can have it, this size, etc. Yet we haven't figured that out with HR.
No, we
We
not.
have the same interview questions for every single person, no
Yeah.
matter what job that they're going for. Same exit interview. We're doing it as a bureaucracy, and because
As
that
a
works for
process.
scale.
Yeah, for economies of scale.
Exactly. I mean, it was when I heard it, I just thought, oh, this is really enlightening. If we start thinking about HR as not, one size fits all, and we think of it as how do we kind of meet the needs of our employee, I think that we'll be in a better place.
So Doris, I'll put this question to you. A big issue for HR is the need to maintain equity.
Right.
Right. So I'm
Right.
going to ask, how do we address it? So in principle, I agree with the idea
Yeah.
of customizing and personalization. That's where the world is today.
Right.
Biggest problem is a
Yeah.
line leader. If I
Yeah.
customize a
Yeah.
policy that benefit this way for Doris,
Yes.
and I said no to a Tammy,
Yes.
the boss is going to have a problem.
Tammy's
saying,
not going to be happy.
Tammy's not quite happy. Why do you show favoritism to Doris
Right.
and not accede to Tammy's request? And the line managers of both are going to come and say you can't do that.
Right.
So that's in HR's defense.
Yes.
It's not for a lack of wanting to be better, nicer.
Right.
But it's just operationalizing it that's really hard.
Yeah. And I'm not going to argue with that because I've been there. That's the challenge. So HR definitely needs to think about the holistic system.
Yeah.
But that's where kind of that Mercer kind of diagram of like have different types of employees, that's super helpful because it makes me think, okay, well, if Tammy needs this now, maybe we can, create something special and also, Tammy, is a give back. And I, in conversations from an HR perspective, when I have them with employees, when you give them the understanding of, give and take,
Totally.
they're very open to that.
Totally.
It's like our assumption that they're going to say, no, I want my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
But if it's, a real conversation, oftentimes they think, okay, that sounds fair.
They want to know that they are seen as an individual and a person.
Yeah. And if it doesn't sound fair, meaning if it isn't fair, then don't offer it.
But you know what it means? It means that as leaders and as HR, the need, because like you say, when it's homogeneous, when it's one way, it's great for scale. It's great for efficiency.
Yes.
It gets things done.
Yes.
The need to sit down and to talk and to
Yes.
customize and to engage and to adjust.
Yes.
That's where it takes a lot of effort.
And this is where I feel, what we do is really important because there's no way HR can do all of that. So that's where the line managers and the business unit leaders and everybody within the organization, even the colleagues, so they might not even be the RO, need to be part of that process because HR cannot, right now it's probably 40-1 at some of the large companies in terms of ratio. They cannot do that.
Yeah, it's just, and the relationship does not sit with them.
Right.
You're looking at a 1,000-strong organization. The relationship is with the line leader.
Yeah, and they'll know the best.
That's right. And that's where we need to equip the line leaders
Definitely.
with the ability to think beyond just operational targets, but with people goals as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's not just, like you say, the profitability. It has to be the people.
Yeah.
This is really hard for me because I am so type A logical,
right?
Yeah.
Don't think too much.
Yeah, okay.
Right, let's try it. Ready? Give me an adjective.
Helpful.
All right. How about a plural noun?
Oh, I think I was going to think of something else really boring. Bricks.
Bricks. All right. I'm thinking of Roblox. What about adjective? Another adjective.
Roly-poly.
Love that. Last two. A job role.
Gosh, there's so many of them in my head, but I'm not going to be saying any of them. Designer.
And I would have finally a number.
Let's say, is pi
2.14?
3.14?
All right.
Okay.
All right. Ready for that?
Ready.
All right. This is a disgruntled boomer rant. Young people these days are so helpful. They no longer want to work hard. They just demand benefits like bricks in the office. My intern recently
Legos.
told me that her generation thinks bosses should be roly-poly and that can be irritating. She also wants to have more flexibility in her work schedule. Our company already has 29 eons of work from home per month.
Wow.
What more do you want? And the one hire, this is his first job in Mesozoic period. Job hopping gets you nowhere. You should aim to stay at a job for at least 1,997 years to
At
show
least.
that you are burning. If you work hard, you can even be promoted to designer and earn a 3.147 figure salary. Don't you agree? This is what you have. Thank you so much, Doris, for being on our show today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
I learned so much. I picked up so many things for me to do. Much soul searching for me as a Gen X boss, Gen X parent, but definitely something for me to learn and unlearn.
For
Thank you
all
so
of us.
much.
Thank you.
Take care.
This podcast is brought to you by Great Place to Work, ASEAN and ANZ. At Great Place to Work, we transform workplaces through our unique culture and certification program. We promote a future of work that is inclusive and fulfilling, inspiring organizations to build cultures of trust, collaboration, and engagement. Tune in to our next episode and stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Let's shape truly great workplaces together.